Good evening and welcome to the live members surgery. And of course, you might be consuming the surgery as a recording later through the Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and our podcast. My name is Scott Haslam, president of the Leeds No. 1 amalgamated branch of the Communication Workers Union. Would you help us reach as many members as possible by sharing this episode? If you haven't done so already, please like our CWU Leeds No. 1 and North East Regional Facebook pages, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and why not subscribe to our podcast service, searching CWU Members Surgery on your preferred podcast. So in tonight's session, I'm joined by three new faces, although they might not be that new to you. They are the elected to the National and Postal Executives of the CWU. So may I introduce to you Luke Elgar, Rob Wotherspoon and Saf Khan. Congratulations, boys, in your election. Thanks for accepting our invitation to the live surgery. So tonight we want to talk about who they are, their backgrounds, and how they're going to work for you. So please don't be shy. We'd love to hear from you with any questions, comments, or anything you really want to ask. The surgery is designed to give you the opportunity to help mould the future of the CWU. So let's start with this session, and if you like, a proper introduction. Seeing as Luke's at the top of the screen, shall we start with you, Luke? Who are you, Luke? Where you come from, etc., etc.
Good question. Luke Elgar, I come from Southend-on-Sea in Essex. I've been on the National Executive for 2 years, representing our younger members. In that time, I've also been on carrying on with my deliveries, and this will be the first time, representing our members with full release. So, with the hard work, with that release becomes a hard work. So it's time to get into it. I guess I'm the youngest person. I am the youngest candidate in the election. I don't think it's saying. I think proud is the wrong word. I think Rob gets a reward for looking the youngest, but I think it's saying important because. We need young trade unions coming through at all levels of our union, and I think that's something I try to highlight in my role as a young workers representative, but it's also something I want to highlight industrially. So, how we can get more younger reps in the workplace and highlight the views that affect our younger members out there going forward. So, yeah, I think that's it from me from the introduction.
Excellent. Rob, who are you?
Yeah, well, Luke's not the only one to give me stick for being baby-faced, but I'm not quite as young as I look. So my involvement as a trade unionist started when I was 24 years old, leading my first dispute, Bristol North delivery office. We had the strikes of 2007 and 2009 took place in those early years. But yeah, that was my first dispute was 15 years ago now, and in that time I've been working in various industrial positions, and most recently running the Bristol and District branch of the CWU, and yeah, been fortunate enough to be elected to both executives. Didn't know that was going to happen. Really proud of that, and I'm really proud to go on and try and do a good job for the members at that level.
Excellent, thank you for that, Rob. And last but by no means least, the most senior person I think on this panel, Saf. Who are you, Saf? Where are you from?
I won't say the most senior, but I'll try. My name's Saf Khan, and I live in Rochdale, originally from Bradford in West Yorkshire, on the corner from Scott and his team. And I've been a trade union rep now for 25 years, worked in the business 30 years, and I've held various positions from local rep to treasurer to sub-area rep for a number of years. Now, for the last 6 years now, I've been the branch secretary for North West No. 1 branch. And I think I'm looking forward to working on the PEC along with Rob, Luke, and the team that's on the PEC.
Excellent. So thanks for that then, boys. So it's a good baseline to start from. And to be fair, I think you kind of touched on one area. So you're on the northwest, Saf. I'm there in the Yorkshire side, although you do have some loyalties to to the White Rose. And then we've got Rob down in the southwest and Luke in the southeast area. So we've virtually covered off all corners of England. So that's a good spread. And so I want to delve into a little bit about your addresses, really, because you've been elected not just on who you are necessarily, it's also on what your manifesto is in effect. So, I think there's three things. Well, there's three things. There's all three of you are covered off about the agreements and adhering to sort of national agreements, and particularly this drive to 35 and the shorter working week. So this year, particularly, and I think probably Luke, more so being a substitute area rep, has been involved with some of those structural revisions linked to those shorter weeks. But certainly, as branch secretaries, you both, liaise with your members in your respective branches. But particularly, how have you seen the shorter working week being deployed? Is there sort of issues that you'd like to see being addressed going forward as part of the executive? And, how do you see things panning out with that next year to future revisions? Who would like to kick that one off?
I'll go if you want.
Yeah. Go on, Saf. Go on.
Yeah, obviously, in our branch, we've got a couple of offices in the top 100, Bolton North and Oldham. And Oldham's revision went live 4 weeks ago. And they're doing it in sections. And I know our members ain't chomping away at getting the shorter working week to 37 hours with the changes that are being proposed. And I think there's still a lot of work to be done in the unit. And I was involved in the meeting earlier with the local rep and the area rep. And there is a lot of issues coming out from the parcel strategy. And look, I think we can all say the agreement looks great, handy dandy on paper, but moving forward, I think there's still a lot of work to be done. And that's from seeing it on daily basis, because that's where my branch office is based in Oldham.
Yeah. Excellent. So, from what you're saying there, there's some difficult challenges, and it all ties into about how you deliver that in terms of duty sets, isn't it, Saf?
Definitely.
Particularly, Rob, that's one title that you said in your address, wasn't it, about innovative duty structures and such. So do you think that's the key about delivering that shorter working week? Yeah,
that's something I'm really passionate about, and something I've always pushed forward on over the years, because I think we've all said the same thing, basically looking at our election addresses, that clearly we've got a commitment from the business for 35 hours, and we need to deliver that commitment as soon as reasonably as we reasonably can. What that does as well is opens up the opportunity for innovative duty patterns. So I'll give you a local example. So we've had a revision in the Bristol South delivery office, and what we've actually managed to do is get every single person in that unit on a 9-day fortnight. Now, 9-day fortnight's a really popular duty pattern wherever we've had it, particularly because every 4 weeks under the pattern they've got at the moment, you get a nice long weekend, an extra long weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday off, but not a lot longer on each day. So obviously, it's always down to membership preferences. You can lead a horse to water and so on. I'm keen to push those patterns, but it's about what people want. In the mail centre as well, 3 and 4 day weeks are popular. And if we can reduce the hours down even more, which we should do, we've all committed to that, and get to 35 hours, opens up the possibility then for maybe doing patterns like a 4-day working week. So there's been a lot of talk in sort of wider society about the idea of a 4-day working week. Well, the CWU could actually deliver that for people. So those are the kind of benefits that we can deliver for our members, and that we need to keep pushing forward on.
Excellent. So Luke, in terms of how's it been panning out with this, delivering it this year, and how do you see that moving forward into next year? Certainly based on experience down in Essex.
Timescale wise, it obviously is on in the field. I think recognised by the executive that are already elected before we come on. It's a bit of a concern. Royal Mail, I've noticed it's a concern. We're drafted in planners from outside. But that isn't the CWU holding up things. It's a problem with the former Royal Mail leadership, who sacked hundreds of management without foreseeing the need for them in the future for planning revisions. But we've run with it. Certainly in Southend, we went with a 9-day fortnight across the board. It was popular across. We've got a number of offices in our unit. It was popular across with those who already had it. So we balloted. We went to the members, not balloted them, but we went to them to get with a preference exercise, and overwhelmingly, I can't remember the exact figure, it was in the 90s, we were in favour of going to 9-day working week. Now, obviously, that's a longer workload, but it gives you 5 weeks extra holiday a year, and in a time when holiday and family is so important, that's going to go well. It's going to go down well, people, and it's going to give them a better work-life balance. And that ties exactly into the 35-hour working week. It's not just about work-life balance. Obviously, that's important to all of us, but it's about saving jobs going forward. As obviously letters are in decline, but parcels are on the up. So we need to manage that and work out how we go forward in years to come. I think the 4-day working week was a big part of the Labour manifesto in 2019, but we shouldn't lose sight of that just because there's no leadership. It's going to be paramount protecting jobs and protecting good jobs and a good balance of life, without people having to take on jobs here, there, and everywhere just to make an ends meet going forward. And if the CW can lead on that, as we do on a lot of things, I think that would be, it would be a show of credit of how strong our union is in the workplace and how important it is for the people mimic strong trade unionism in other workplaces around the country.
Excellent. So there's a couple of comments just coming in relation to revisions, I suppose, and the shorter working week. So Simon asks particularly regarding the 35-hour week, we can't even complete the duties in the time. We now have to expect to get round in the duties in less time. So before we address that, we've also got Pete Brickworth asking about revision activity in your areas, specifically the structurally, including the prep for door-to-doors and all the other associated bits. See, I mean, you tell me, because you're certainly delivery based, and I work with our delivery area reps as president of the Leeds branch. But structurally, when you do a structural revision, that 35-hour week should cut the workload down to fit the 35 hours. So you shouldn't necessarily be expected to work more hours than it needs to complete the duty. There is issues, isn't it, with the structural revisions, as in they're taking out parcels, so you end up with direct delivery parcel routes and such. But how have you seen them revisions actually deploy that 35? Have you had much of a kickback because, like Simon has said, that they're physically struggling? Is the software not working properly, the geo route and such? Or is this something else we need to take up at Mark Walsh level, perhaps? I'll jump at once.
Yeah. Do you want me to go first on that?
Go on, Luke. Yeah, because I know you're quite big on technology, aren't you?
So obviously, it is a concern with especially going on 9 days. That's a 5-hour delivery span. It's a concern. You've got to remember that's steering wheel to steel. That's from leaving the office to getting back. That's waiting for it to be replenished if you've got a van driver. Also, these walks should, if they're not, if you are not a single van, you should theoretically have all your shoebox and oversized parcels taken off you. I'm not saying this is why it's going to work perfectly. No revisions ever work perfectly in the start, but this is what we've got to work with. We've got weighted items as a measure, a productivity measure that ties people's hands locally about how much they can, manage a walk. Things can be altered here and there, but it does tie you a little bit to that productivity measure. I think time will tell. In our area, that the structural revisions are not in yet, so we don't know how it's going to work out yet. But what I'm hearing from around the country is that actually the productivity measure has worked out, and people are getting them done, even though when they looked at them and when they signed for them, they look really scary at the start. So But everyone works at different paces, and that's exactly what we're going to look out for the future. And that's where we've got to be. Royal Mail really need to be, manoeuvrable and not so rigid in how a duty is completed, because not everyone works at the same pace. And we see how can, a 50-year-old postman can't be expected to work at the same pace as a 30-year-old postman. So they need to make allowances for that, and they need to make it, if you're going with an average pace, then that's half the people are below average in your theory. So, that's not going to work. And that's what we need to be aware of going forward. And that's what we need to, that's our members will say out loudly, and we'll say, look, if you can't get it done, we'll back you 100% to prove why it doesn't work and why it needs to be altered in specifically to that person.
Excellent. So, Saf, do you want to come in? Go on.
Just regarding the question, is it Pete Britt put on regarding the door-to-door 100% being prepped on the Monday? Yeah, I think that's what it says. Yeah, I think from our patch, I think we've changed that now. We're going back to I know different areas do it different, from a row day or to a column a day. So I think the business and the union, the current PC and Mark Bolsh's department recognise that prepping them all on a Monday isn't working. One of the offices in our patch, just on the road from where I live, Prestwich, it's just caused absolute chaos prepping it all on a Monday. And I think Tony Bush is on there, and I think he had a visit and spoke to the area rep there. So I think that's been kiboshed, but I don't know if it's been kiboshed nationally yet.
Excellent. Have you got any extra comments on that, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, I think Luke's made the right points on that. I mean, what I'd say, and I've been saying for many years, and probably won't make myself very popular saying it, but I never quite understand that argument about what's the point in taking hours off the working week? Because surely if that were true, then it wouldn't matter if we were on a 40-hour week compared to the 37 hours we're on now. So if the business came to you and said, "Oh, you all have to work 40 hours," nobody'd be bothered about that. So clearly, it does make a difference. We've got a start time, we've got a finish time. We should have a manageable workload in that time, and over time, that is a benefit for people. And obviously, if people can't complete their workload in their time, there are procedures to follow that, and we'll absolutely back people up 100% if they can't manage their work in their time. So yeah, might not necessarily be the most popular answer, but I do think we have to defend it as a real benefit for members, and something that people in lots of outside industries would sort of think you were slightly odd if you were turning down having hours off your working week on the same wages.
It is. I mean, and to be fair, Andrew Taylor's has made this comment, and when he's talking about the drive to 35 hours, I mean, he said 36, but if you've got 35 hours, that means that you can potentially get more full-time jobs and more full-time opportunities, which comes into actually your address, Luke, wasn't it? Because one of your statements in there is giving part-time workers a route to full-time. So surely by having that drive to 35 means that the simple maths would mean that potentially is going to mean that opportunity will come to fruition far easier than just standing by the side shouting and bawling, Yeah,
I think it benefits in both ways. So it benefits those who want to go to full-time. It also benefits those who don't want to go to full-time because of home life, things that they have to deal with at home, children, family, important things they got to do, for lack of a better word. And so by bringing, everyone else towards them, that means they don't have to navigate that so much. But yeah, obviously this is massively important, bringing people up full-time. How long now have we been asking for this? How long have people been coming in as a part-timer and being expected to do a full-time duty within their hours? It can't be the future if we want to represent our members to the best of our abilities, and that's one of the areas we really need to pick up on. So part-time duties for part-time staff, and full-time opportunities for those who want to be made up. It's got to be what we push for as an executive.
Excellent. So, I mean, there's some other comments coming through about DJ there. He wants to know, well, it's making a statement really that the business don't want full-timers. Although, to be fair, the agreement, they've signed up to that, and certainly with the structural visions, the hours are the hours, and if the hours fit full-time numbers, then it fits full-time numbers. Joe Mc27, he asks that if the structure revisions aren't agreed locally by October, could they be imposed? Well, I don't think that would be the case, but Rob, do you want to pick that up?
I can't see any way that'll happen. You know, that's not something I can see us ever agreeing to. The agreement's quite clear on it, and obviously we're not in the business of accepting change being imposed. So I don't, you know, take some reassurance. I'm not promising anything, but I certainly can't see any way that would happen.
Yeah. So I just want to pick up someone from our neck of the patch. So Kyle, I think you sold the 9-day fortnight quite eloquently, Rob. So Kyle, local rep in Wetherby, wants to know whether that can be put on the table when they're talking about the next revision. So 9-day fortnights, am I right? That's something part of a structural revision rather than the tabletops?
Yeah, it's most likely going to be part of a structural revision. There's a document that is quite dated, but called the menu of duty options that you should be able to find. If you can't find it, by all means, message me on Facebook or whatever, or look on the branch page for my email address, Bristol page, and I'll send that agreement over.
Excellent, thank you. So, picking up on a couple more points on your addresses. I mean, to be fair, I think we'll just break the screen up a little bit. So there we go. We've got a nice mug shot there of Luke. So if we look towards Saf, I noticed he made a couple of points there, and that was embracing growth and the reward the workforce, which ties in nicely to this handsome chap. And he's talking about productivity. So we've got 2 points there, slightly worded different, but about rewarding. So, you know, is that what you were meaning, Saf, where you're talking about embracing growth and rewarding the workforce? Or are you talking about it more in like the shorter working week context? Because I think this productivity about short-term reward, almost like bonuses, and then capturing it into a short working is an interesting concept. So I think that's worthy of a debate. So do you want to pick that up, Rob, to start with?
Yeah, I think just the general point is we've now got a productivity measure in the new agreement. I won't go into that. It is slightly mind-bending stuff when you start thinking about it. So I won't go into that now. But essentially, there's a productivity measure now, but there's no scheme to reward that. So if we're making improvements in productivity, then we should make sure that the members are rewarded for that. And I think the longer term solution for that has got to be consolidating that into basic pay.
Excellent.
But that's my opinion, obviously, and we'll have to decide collectively as an executive what the policy is on that.
Yeah, I mean, to pick up on a short statement on Luke's, actually, because he said we deserve a share of that profit. So we're talking about the recent surge in online purchases and stuff. So you're all talking about the same. It's about capturing that growth and turning it into benefits for all our members. It's just perhaps a slightly different way of looking at which I thought. So Luke and Saf, do you want to expand on them 2 comments from your addresses?
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I think, of course, I believe we should be rewarded for our role played throughout the pandemic. Our postal workers done an unbelievable job of connecting the country and not just running about your COVID kits and picking them up from post boxes, all at an increased risk. But it's not just about that. It's about going forward. How do we measure success of a company and who benefits from that? Now, whether you're still got your shares from when the company was privatised or not, I believe that the workers are still more important than the shareholders. That's something I always believe because we're the ones that make it happen. So there needs to be some sort reward for the work we do, whether it's throughout a pandemic or whether it's from anyway. But in 2022, there is the pay deal up for debate again, or up for discussion, which is where, as an executive member, I'll be pushing that we get the best pay deal for our members that we possibly can. And I don't think we're unreasonable in demanding that sort of thing.
Saf?
Yeah, just to add on to that, obviously, like Luke just said, whether we're working in the middle of the pandemic, I mean, our members, we all got a bonus of £200 middle of last June, July, was it, for working hard. I mean, moving forward, I think parcel growth, we know it's pretty profitable for the company, and that's what we all want. And I think the reward has to be in the rise in basic pay. And obviously we've got the new pension deal coming in. I mean, bonuses, I ain't a fan of bonuses, whether it's national bonus or office-to-office bonus, it can be cat fine amongst the pigeons, just to get a bonus. So, look, I think the way forward is to get everything into a basic pensionable pay.
Absolutely. I think we all agree on that one. I mean, it's funny enough. I mean, we've been talking we've been talking about the delivery side of stuff, and we've obviously got members across all the different sort of sections in the mail centres and in driving, and particularly in driving, there is a national. This is outside of Royal Mail, a national heavy goods shortage, and quite frankly, every company is in the same predicament, and now they're offering bonuses to entice people into those companies, and Royal Mail are really struggling to I suppose, convince people to come into the company, which ties into about really, offering internal training and through the career path and one thing and another. And that's something I know, Luke, you talk about quite a lot in the last couple of years as the National Young Workers sort of representative, and sort of about modern apprenticeships and bringing these people into the company and such. So. That is going to be key, isn't it, going forward, about bringing new people into the company through the shorter working week, and from there, bringing up another point you've said is about bringing through new representatives into the trade union. So, I mean, how do you see that panning out?
So, yeah, let's first talk about the driver's grade. I think it's important because as we've got a little network of us as young trade union reps in the Royal Mail side. And one of the things we spoke about passionately was the opportunities for those to be made up to heavy goods drivers. Now, as it stands, Royal Mail are recruiting them from within, but that's those people who've already got their license. Now, as we know, the license does cost, I think it's up to £5,000, which is unaffordable for our members and for Royal Mail staff. Now, I think if you're Royal Mail and you want drivers, why aren't you giving those opportunities? As a young person myself and as someone who understands the cost of living, especially in the southeast, but all around the country for young people, and the lack of chances to get on a property ladder or put a roof over for a young family, put a roof over their heads. I would like to see opportunities to young people for that. Not excluding older people, but I'd like to see the opportunity there because they can't afford thousands of pounds to lay out. And it's said on pushing towards this, we spoke with Shelley and Dave Robertson on this specific subject, where we was asking from Royal Mail to fund this training to put them up, and they said, Royal Mail are pushing back because of the cost, but also because of the pass rate first time, how low that is. So Royal Mail might push back, but how can they expect their staff to do that? And if there's a shortage, then I would hope that they are looking to recruit within and give opportunities for young people. I think I've spoken for quite a whole while, and I don't want to hold on, but I will quickly go into the importance of bringing through young reps. It's a TUC study, and I've spoken about it a lot of times, but it suggests that in 15 years' time, we will look to lose half of our reps throughout the movement, not just in the CW, but the whole movement through retirement. And I suspect that could be considerably higher within Royal Mail. I think it's important for all executives, not just young workers representatives, to bang the drum to bring through new reps, because we've got a massive problem going forward if we don't address it. So it's important for executives, not just, like I say, young reps that want to get through and get on in the trade unions. We should be all helping them to do that.
Excellent. I mean, particularly on the young worker side of stuff, I know down in Bristol, Rob, you was a young person, weren't you? That's where we first met.
I was a young person once, yeah.
I was indeed. But that's where we actually first met, weren't we, on one of these young workers events, which, as it happened, you know, if people are watching who are under 30 and interested in an event like that, then they're pushing this year's in Newcastle. So, you know, do get in contact with your branches if you are interested in that. But that's where we first met. And, you know, it's Bristol particularly have had a constant chain of young people coming through. So, you know, how have you, as branch secretary, helped do that once you've stepped up to branch secretary role?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's always about looking for the next people to come forward, and that's a big part of the branch secretary role. I don't know if I'd always frame it in terms of youth. You know, there are many groups of workers out there who have a lot of talent to offer as reps, and who are underrepresented in our structures. You know, women often, black and ethnic minorities, but also, you know, just people who are got a good head on their shoulders and want to have a bit of a crack at management. And yeah, you know, Luke's absolutely spot on. If we don't replace ourselves, if we're not looking at, you know, who's the person I'm training up, who am I passing knowledge onto, then yeah, you know, we won't go anywhere as a union. But I think that is something we are, you know, actively doing.
So, Saf, I mean, I'm going to flip this on the other way around now, because Luke is a young worker by definition of the union. Rob is in that intermediate stage where he's come through the youth structure or young worker structure into, you know, where he is now. Which, whereas yourself, when we spoke earlier in the week, you took over from someone who seemed to be quite reluctant to leave the company, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, obviously, like you said, you know, time ticks on, and obviously, my predecessor, you know, the age of 68, and I think, you know, I know the age discrimination bill, etc. You can work till you drop if you wanted to, but I think that there is a time in life, you know, whether we're on the trade union side or on the shop floor, working in the mail centre or on the delivery office floor, you know, we need to go and enjoy life. So I mean, someone that was been actively involved for many years, just waited for the chance to come along and put him for the position, and then got it. You know, and I think wholeheartedly support what Luke said, you know, about young workers. But I think I'm probably in the same mindset as Rob. You know, there is a lot of clever people out there, you know, in our branches, and it's try to get them to come forward. You know, I think we see it on these live questions people on Facebook. There's a lot of intelligent members out there, and I think it's just stepping up to become a CW rep. You know, and that, like you said, can be from the youth, the BAME, or the women's side, and it's just a matter of just them having that confidence to come forward.
Excellent. I mean, that's part of what's happened with the rules, and we had the special rules conference online because of the COVID pandemic, and that changed some of the rules on how the proportionality of the union was going to be elected effectively. So, you know, for the first time, the proportionality now reflects, or should reflect, once the vacancies are filled, reflect the membership demographics, really. So that's something that I think the CWU are leading on that aspect. So there has been a question earlier on. I haven't ignored it. It's from from Dave Johnson, and it's something that all three of you have said on your addresses, and it's something that is pertinent and seems to regurgitate every so often, and it's to do with culture. So we'll go on this culture thing. So what Dave asks is, how does the panel feel about the culture in Roma Group? Is it improving? And he means genuinely on the shop floor, not within the accolades of head office. So who wants to kick that one off?
I'll start off.
Go on, Seth. What's your experience there, and how do you see it happening? change?
Well, culture. I mean, Rob touched on his, first dispute in 2009. I think mine was back in 1999. Culture, and that was management not adhering to national agreements. Look, we've got some cracking national agreements, working to our time, etc. But look, I'm a strong believer. I think the culture needs to, well, we all agree that it needs to change, but I don't think it's going to happen, by flicking off the lights or on and off. As I think there's still a lot of work to be done, and that, and I know Terry from the new CEO has got the promises that he'll stamp out all the bullying and harassment that goes on. And I think as reps and as future PAC, I think that's a big issue for myself. I've seen that many days. I mean, I used to say it's them and us, and I think it still is them and us. But I think there's going to be a time where we're going to have to draw a line and say, look, it needs to stop. And that is, I know Dave is good at asking questions on various social media channels, but to say we can say as a PEC or Terry Pullinger, that will flick the lights off and that it'll change. Walking tomorrow and it'll be rosy. We'd love to see that happen, but I don't think it's going to happen overnight. But it's work in progress. And I'll just say, look, we all got to highlight it up, to your branches, to your area reps, and not suffer in silence. And I think there is a lot of people up and down the country that do suffer in silence. And I think they need to come up, come forward. And I know we're making a big push on this new trust survey again. And I think I know some office in my branch didn't fill it in. And I think we need to step up and fill it in now and say, look, this is the issues. And this is what we need to deal in reality.
Excellent. Rob or Luke, want to pick up?
Yeah.
Or did someone just fall down?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think there's a general point I want to make about culture, which is it. In one sense, look, the battle for dignity in the workplace is one that never stops. And the day it stops, we won't have anything else to do. We're always in conflict with the employer about the way people should be treated in the workplace. Some of that is around agreements. Some of that is around the way that employers, think that their employees can be treated and so on. So, in some sense, we have to be a bit honest that we're not going to walk into some kind of utopia, because that is a reality of the workplace, and that is the reality of capitalism, frankly, right? But within that, there are things we can say, concretely in the way that people are treated in Royal Mail Group. That has not been acceptable. Some of that's around agreements, as Saf has said, and we've got processes to hold to with that. In terms of where managers are treating people badly, or where managers are being accused of bullying people, I've always had a view on that it's our role to empower people in the workplace to feel confident enough to stand up for that and know that they've got the backing. I've seen many examples of that being done effectively in a workplace where people actually have the courage of their convictions, and maybe they request a strike ballot, or maybe it's not even that, or maybe they walk out in some circumstances because they've been pushed that far, or maybe they go for an industrial relations review. But even if they get to that point, what is important then is that everyone comes forward and tells the truth about what's been happening. I've seen concrete change because of that. So one of the offices that was identified in the culture survey was Bridgewater Delivery Office in my branch. I've got my own views on what the problems were caused by in that office, and I would lay them squarely at the door of senior management. But at the end of the day, Terry came down with the new CEO, Simon Thompson. They made some commitments to those people, and those commitments were carried out. And the office if you ask anyone now, is a much better place to work because of that. So yes, we can improve this and we can make concrete improvements, but it is an ongoing battle.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with anything anyone says, but I think specifically to say, has it changed? I think it's too early to tell. We're in a quieter period, which historically is quiet at this time of year, and things are generally a bit rosier because management are getting workload out the door. When the revisions come into place, that's when we'll know if it's changed properly, because if they're not all rosy at the start, that's when they're getting the pressure, and that's when they start putting on our members. But equally, some of these, and I know that there's been a change to management bonus, which is based on culture, which has not been totally popular with management. I understand that, and not totally popular at the very senior levels of Royal Mail from what we're hearing. And some of these people need to get the importance of culture. And it isn't just enough, if there's a bullying manager, just to move them on to their next office. God forbid a trade union is calling for someone to be sacked, but if someone's just a bully, and they're in that job, then they can't be in charge of people. They're not fit to do it. So, we can't just move these rogue management from office to office every time they get a complaint. We need to deal with it properly. And like I say, this culture review is early, but hopefully it's going in the right direction. If it isn't, we'll be back banging a drum and doing everything we traditionally do to deal with it.
Excellent. Well, certainly I think for the three characters that you are, and certainly members in your respective branches, then I'm sure any bullying there will be the iron fist, so to speak, will come down on that people guilty. And I think I'd just like to finish that bit off with a quote from Rob's address, which is the bad managers need to shape up or be shipped out, quote unquote. So I think that sums that up nicely. So we've talked a little bit about bringing not just young people, but certainly new reps and giving them the confidence to take over the roles really in the localities. And clearly, local reps are absolute paramount and fundamental really to the CWU, because without them, we physically can't function. So one comment has come through from Richard Pilgrim, and I think it's a valid point. And what he said is the saddest thing about the CWU and the future reps is the loss of Alverscott. Now, never ever left there without feeling more enthusiastic, more knowledgeable, and with a few extra contacts for help and advice. And I think the latter part is particularly important. And what he's talking about is instilling sort of that belief. And I don't know if you've experienced the same. You go somewhere like that and you come back almost like 10 men, don't you? You come out shoulders up and I'm going to change the world type of thing. And it's very, very varied. And you also get some contacts. Now, we don't have Alverscott anymore. So I'd be interested to know what your viewpoint's on and how you see that type of, I suppose, a similar situation. How can we emulate that situation or that feeling that Richard talks about from Alverscott? Now we don't have Alverscott, if that makes sense.
I mean, is it all right for coming there?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I got a slightly different view on that. I don't think it's about Alverscott as a place. I agree. The training is brilliant. And I had that exact same feeling when I first did my training, but it was because I was with other reps from around the country, and and because the training was really good, and we empowered each other, and we learned from it. And that wasn't even in Alverscott; it was somewhere else. So I don't see any reason why we can't replicate that. It's not about a place; it's about the training and what we do together.
Saf?
Yeah, one of the things, obviously, when Alverscott was agreed by us all as a union to close down, to all regional training, and I think sorry, I forgot to get chap's name that come on with a question.
Richard.
I think Richard, sorry. One of the biggest thing I think what he's trying to say is I've only, be honest, I've only been Alderscott twice. I've been to Elstead a couple of times, but it's a comradeship that you gain, and and the contacts, and like you said, listening to each other's stories after the classes, and then sharing views. And I don't think we can say that can't happen regionally. We can put our future students up in a hotel somewhere, and the branches or headquarters, whichever way it's funded. And I think, I know we've had the pandemic for the last 18 months now, and I think hopefully in the new year, that's where the regional training, etc., comes back in, and then we can put them up. Those that want to stay overnight, I know I've had reps that said they can't stay overnight, can't go on courses, but those that want to stay overnight, we can, let's as a union put them up, and then they can get that comradeship.
Luke, would you like to add any comments?
Yeah. I echo how you feel when you say you come out of Alderscott feeling like 10 men. I can totally, agree with that. But I think the losing Alderscott didn't time well with the COVID pandemic, which meant we couldn't replicate elsewhere because we weren't meeting people everywhere. And that would have happened whether Alderscott was still there, because we wouldn't have been able to attend. But I've come back from rallies feeling like I can change the world as much as 10 men. I've come back from conference feeling that way, and I hope that I'll come back from regional training feeling that way, because it's about being around comrades and fellow trade unionists and talking about the issues we've got to tackle and all that. And there's no reason we can't replicate that in another form. And I do have faith in the Equality Department to deliver that in the best possible way.
Excellent. I mean, I agree on everything. I mean, we're a bit of a devil's advocate. I were pitching it to you, but certainly, I mean, Alderscott was very much like a gold label standard, so it was very remote one for another. But my first training was locally in the branch office, and I think you've all said the key is meeting some people they haven't met before, bouncing off them, and it's almost like being given a set of keys to a lock in it, that you eventually find the right one, and then you open it, and then it unlocks the lot. And that's what the training is. It unlocks them skills so you can deliver for your members and register them disagreements, or as it is now, reach an agreement. But yeah, absolutely, it's something that I'm confident they'll get right at some point once the pandemic sort of eases a little bit. Absolutely. So, well, we've been on 47 minutes, boys and girls. So do get more of your questions in, because we'll be wrapping it up within the next 10 minutes, I would think. So I don't quite understand what Bentley wants. He said that we need to get some big ships. It's completely random, but there we go. Let's have a scan through some of the comments. Members negotiate bit. All right. So no, I think we've missed. I think we've addressed all those ones. So in terms of the future, boys, we kind of touched on it a little bit, but actually the future, views on the future. So you're going to be elected now for the next 2 years. So how are you going to delve into your first postal executive next month? How are you going to stamp your name there? What sort of ambitions do you want to see in the next couple of years, and how are you going to work directly for the members that have elected you? Bit of a broad question, but who wants to take that one up first?
Yeah, I'll go for it. Why not?
You're on the national exec, so you've got a starting point.
On a national executive, but equally that was a learning curve to begin with anyway. I think for all of us, we're going to walk in and we're not going to, it's not about changing the world in a day. It's about finding your feet on that body. But it's what matters is what you believe in, and what we believe in, I believe in is that we do need to change the working hours, go to a 35-hour week, but 4-day week beyond that if we're looking long term, because the world of work is changing and jobs are fewer and far further between, and we need to protect them in any way we possibly can, especially when you see, the likes of Bezos and all this little mob having a space race. The money's out there, but it's not in the right hands, and it's not distributed in the favour of normal people. It's just going one way, and it's only going to worsen. So we need to, change the forces of work. But specifically a Royal Mail, it's going to have to be, moving towards a 35-hour week, but also capturing that growth elsewhere. If that means changing our roles or expanding our roles, then I'm not against that because, work is power and work is money, and that's what our members need.
Rob, Saf?
Yeah. Obviously, Luke's
how are you going to address it for the next 2 years?
Yes. Right. Where should I begin? Yeah. I mean, so look, I'm not good about talking about myself. We're part of a collective body, and we'll have, we make decisions democratically. So it's not about me being great or anything like that. I'll do my best as I can, and I'll be judged on that. In terms of the future, Luke's made the right points. The other things I think I'd pick out is, firstly, there's a lot of talk from the business about trust on the doorstep and the quality of service that we deliver. If you look at that quality of service recently, obviously we've got COVID in the background, but it's not been of the standard that it should be. I know that people have been struggling with pandemics and so on and all this kind of thing. That's understandable at the moment, but as we hopefully come out of the pandemic, if we're going to retain that trust with the public, we need to make sure that offices are fully staffed and able to deliver all the work in them and deliver it to quality. Otherwise, we'll lose that trust on the doorstep, and then it will be work going to all those cutthroat couriers that we know so much about. The other one to watch is Ofcom's regulatory review. Now, the CWU has made a submission to that, saying basically, look, why is it that the only thing that Ofcom seems to be interested in is their so-called measure of efficiency, which is basically saying that we're paid too much? Why are they not interested in things like, for instance, the fact that the most exploitative and unpleasant workplaces in the UK are often in the parcels and the courier industry? Why aren't they interested in the 0-hour contracts? Why are they trying to benchmark Royal Mail against those, treating people like absolute, dirt on your shoe, right? Equally, why are they benchmarking when we're hearing so much talk about the environment? Royal Mail, which is putting money into continuing to be the greenest delivery company in the UK, whereas again, the competitor companies have got people in terrible hire vans, decades old, belching out black smoke and so on. So there's got to be some understanding of the importance the Royal Mail plays in delivering the USO and continues to play on that. And the quote I want to end on with that as well is a quote from a Royal Mail manager whose name I will not mention, but he said to me, Royal Mail will be finished in 10 years. And he told me that 15 years ago. So never believe a Royal Mail manager. That's the first thing. Look, don't believe there's still a positive future for the company and our workforce, so long as we adapt to the change that's coming our way.
Excellent. How do you follow that, Saf?
Oh, I don't know, mate. Well, just to probably echo what both Luke and Rob have said, and especially Rob there at the end regarding the USO. I mean, our members heard the announcement was a couple of months ago, and all right, we're going Monday to Friday. I mean, at the moment, the business want us working Monday to Saturday, which we are doing. And I think moving forward, that's going to be a big thing, protecting the USO and that the USO being in place protects our terms and conditions going forward. But like it says, a few years down the line, if we end up losing it, but like Luke keeps alluding to, going on a 4-day week, etc., and different and innovative duty patterns. Look, the competitors, this time last year, Royal Mail was booming. The competitors were paying umpteen pence per parcel to be delivered. Got a friend of mine that works for a certain company, I won't mention it on here, and he just had to take 15p parcel cut delivering them. So look, and our terms and conditions are probably the best in the industry, but our competitors should be raising their workforce's terms and conditions to our level. The race is to the top, not to the bottom.
Well said, Saf. Well said. So, last topic I just want to briefly cover off, and it's to do with communications. And I think it's probably fair to say, Luke, probably coming from the younger end, has been well involved with technology, and he's probably taken the bull by the horns for the last couple of years, and that's been quite active as a national executive member. But specifically, Rob, on your address, you mentioned about gate meetings, which I think is absolutely key. And again, Saf, it's about bringing the workplace issues through. Without engaging with your membership, then how are you going to be able to do that? So between the three of you, for yourselves, are you going to continue with the engagement online, doing these face-to-face meetings as an executive member, and really how are we going to pull all that together? Luke?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you know what? I think I've always done a lot of work on social media to reach out our members, not just election time, but I think a few people during the election were a bit critical that the candidates were only posting during election time. And I can understand why they come to their views. And sometimes maybe I don't post it into enough of the Royal Mail chat groups when it ain't election time, things like that. So, we've got to use them and reach our members where they are. So I'll continue to do that. But for those who have me as a Facebook friend, they'll see that I'm always talking about the relevant issues throughout our period in the office. But equally, we've got to keep innovating and using. I'm hoping the CWU app will be a flyer and people will be able to use that. Our members will be able to get a lot from that. So I'll be promoting that and looking to contribute to that where possible. But equally, you can't replace gate meetings and getting out into the offices. And, I would never want to just sort of get onto an executive and not be in the workplace anymore. Because one, it's my passion, and one, it's how I believe we connect best. So, it's about getting out there and getting around those gates and getting to offices around the country and understanding the different sectors that I haven't worked in, So, obviously I come from a delivery office, but, we've got members everywhere, so we need to talk to them in all those different workplaces.
Excellent. Rob?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not great on the social media. I think I'm going to have to take some tips from Luke on this, because he is very good on it. We could definitely benefit from using that as well, and using that as much as possible. But yeah, I'm going to say the same thing as Luke. Our bread and butter is getting out to meet with the members, meet with people face to face, whether that's in a large group or individuals. We've got to keep doing that. It's been a strange time, not being able to get out as much as we've wanted through the pandemic. But I had the opportunity as things opened up to get round all the offices again, and it's a pleasure as always. That's why we do the job at the end of the day. We got to get out there, and we got to it's about telling people what's going on and also listening as well and hearing what's going on out there. And you can only do that face to face.
Excellent. Saf?
Yeah, I think moving forward, obviously, I think like we said there, Luke's a social media king, but I mean, I've tried doing bits and bats. I ain't no social media YouTuber or anything like that, but I try. But I think going back to what we all three agree, you can't beat the face-to-face engagement with the members, listening to their concerns. I mean, moving forward, obviously, part of the PEC, we'll have to see how we get told. But if I'm sure any us three are invited to an office out of Hebrides or somewhere else, we'll attend it. And there's offices that probably never had PEC or a divisional rep, ever visiting their site. And I think I did that about 4 years ago. I had Alan Tate and Darren Globocki visiting 2 offices in my branch. Historically, we've always took them to the big office, to the big sites. And the members in them 2 offices were overwhelmed. They got to speak to somebody from headquarters on regarding the issues they face on a daily basis. So I think that's something I think Teddy's pretty passionate about us all getting out, and I'm sure that's what we'll end up doing.
Excellent. So I think we've all agreed that Luke's first job on the National Executive is to mentor all the executive on social media. But yeah, I mean that's fantastic, boys. So one quick question before we wrap it up: what's your favourite biscuit?
Custard cream.
Oh,
I had a chocolate hobnob yesterday. I think that's probably my favourite.
Well, that one's for Duncan and the Luke.
Good. I'm a cheapskate. I go for the Lidl's own caramel bars. Them little golden red things. Yeah, I suppose that's probably what I'll bash down the most of.
Excellent. So, bit of fun there. So, yeah, everybody, if you enjoyed this session, do give it a like. Leave us a comment on what you felt was good. I'd like to thank Luke, Rob, and Saf for attending. I think it were a fantastic little session. Nice little icebreaker for you. I wish you good luck in the next couple of years in that role. And the invitation will always be there if you wish to join another surgery in the future. You just have to pick up that phone. So, with that in mind, unity is strength. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, Flynn.